27 million times last year, an AAA truck rolled up to a stranded driver. 7 million of those calls were for the same reason, a dead battery. That's more than towing, more than flat tires, more than lockouts. And here's the part your mechanic probably never told you. Consumer Reports' own battery tester has said the real number isn't the 3 to 5 years printed on every box in the store. If you live in the South, your battery is statistically dying before its 41st month. If you live up north, you might get to 58. Same battery, same price tag. Completely different lifespan depending on a number nobody mentions at checkout: heat. So I went through Consumer Reports' actual battery scoring data, the real complaint patterns from owners on Reddit and Consumer Affairs, and the real cold cranking amp and warranty numbers printed on the box of 10 of the most common battery brands in America. Some of these are the exact batteries sitting under your hood right now. 2 of them are not just decent, they're built different. The other 8 range from fine, barely, to you are paying full price for a battery that's already failing the test. This is not a brand I'm sponsored by. This is not a guess. This is Consumer Reports' own lab data, cross-checked against what real owners say happens after the warranty window closes. Avoid the wrong battery and you're looking at a tow bill, a missed shift, or worse, a dead battery on a highway shoulder at night. Get the right one, and you'll likely never think about this part of your car again. Let's start with the one currently sitting in more driveways than any other battery on this list. The budget battery everyone owns and nobody trusts. If you bought your battery at Walmart, there's a good chance it's this one. Everstart is Walmart's exclusive battery line, and it is, by sales volume, one of the most common batteries in the country. It's also the lowest scoring major brand in Consumer Reports' own battery testing. Out of 8 Everstart models Consumer Reports put through their lab, only 1 scored high. 4 came back middling. 1 came back low. That's not a brand having a bad year. That's a brand with 1 good model propping up a mediocre lineup. Here's what's actually happening inside that battery. Consumer Reports tests batteries by repeatedly draining and recharging them at temperatures above 160 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 straight weeks, simulating a summer under your hood. That's the test that's supposed to mimic what your engine bay actually does to a battery in July. A battery that can't survive that simulated heat is a battery that's going to leave you stranded in real heat, not in a lab. And this is where the Everstart story gets interesting because it's not all bad. The top-rated model in the lineup, the Everstart Platinum AGM, actually scored perfectly on 2 of Consumer Reports' key metrics and carries a 48-month warranty with a 680 cold cranking amp rating. That's a genuinely strong spec sheet on paper. But that's 1 battery out of 8 tested. The brand's average performance, the thing that should matter when you're standing in the automotive aisle deciding which box to grab, is dragged down hard by the other 7. On Reddit, the pattern repeats. Some Everstart owners report batteries that simply don't make it past 2 or 3 years, paired with friction when trying to use the warranty for a replacement. Others say the opposite, that theirs ran for years without issue. That split is the real story here. With Everstart, you're playing odds, and the odds, according to Consumer Reports' own numbers, are not great. At roughly $80 to $180 depending on the model, Everstart is the cheapest entry point on this list. But if it fails at the 3-year mark instead of stretching to 5, you haven't saved money. You've just paid the same total cost over a shorter window, with a tow bill thrown in if it dies somewhere inconvenient. Up next is a battery that's been a household name since 1967, and it's only 1 spot better. The name everyone trusts ranked second to last. Diehard built one of the most recognizable names in automotive history. Sears made it famous, and now it's owned by Advance Auto Parts. It's also the single most heavily tested brand on this entire list. Consumer Reports ran 17 separate Diehard models through their lab, more than any other brand here. 5 scored high, 5 scored satisfactory, 6 came back middling, and 1 scored low. That spread is the story. A brand this large, with this much shelf space across the country, should be more consistent than this. Instead, you're rolling dice on which Diehard you actually get, because the name on the case doesn't tell you which of those 17 tiers you're walking out with. The top performer in the lineup, the Diehard Platinum AGM, is a genuinely impressive battery. Perfect scores for life and reserve capacity, a 36-month warranty, and a 680 cold cranking amp rating, with a 4.8 star rating on Advance Auto Parts' own site. If that's the specific model you're buying, you're in decent shape. But here's what the online complaints keep circling back to, and it's not the battery's performance, it's the warranty experience. Consumer Affairs reviews flag battery reliability as a recurring theme, and on Reddit, owners have described being refused a replacement even while still inside the stated warranty window. A battery that fails is one problem. A battery that fails and then makes you fight for the warranty you paid for is a different, more frustrating problem entirely. So the real lesson with Diehard isn't avoid the brand. It's the brand name means almost nothing here. You have to know the specific model, the specific tier, because the gap between Diehard's best battery and its average one is enormous, and average is what most buyers walk out with. Next up is the brand behind AutoZone's house battery, and it has the exact same identity problem, just with better odds. The AutoZone house brand that can't decide what it is. Duralast is AutoZone's proprietary battery line, and it actually contains the single highest scoring battery in this entire ranking of 10 brands. The Duralast Platinum AGM47, also known as the H5 AGM, topped its category in Consumer Reports testing with perfect scores for life and reserve capacity, a 36-month warranty, 680 cold cranking amps, and a 4.8-star rating on AutoZone's own site. So why does Duralast only rank 8th out of 10 brands overall? Because just like Diehard, one great battery doesn't make a great brand average. Of 7 Duralast models Consumer Reports tested, 3 scored high, 1 was satisfactory, 1 was middling, and 2 scored low. Consumer Reports itself flags Duralast as the most polarizing brand in its entire battery dataset. You're not buying a Duralast. You're buying one of at least 4 meaningfully different tiers sold under the exact same name, with wildly different odds of lasting. This is the pattern showing up across almost every budget and mid-tier brand in America right now. And it's worth saying directly, the brand name on the case is doing less work than you think. The model name and the tier matter more than the logo. Reddit threads about Duralast reflect this split too. Mixed sentiment overall, but a fairly consistent preference for the Platinum tier over the brand's cheaper gold line. If you're going to buy Duralast, the Platinum AGM is the one with real data behind it. Anything below that tier, you're back to guessing. Up next, a battery brand that comes with its own technician and a warning about what that convenience is actually costing you. The battery your roadside assistance truck is selling you. If you've ever broken down and called for a battery jump, the technician who shows up in a AAA truck doesn't just jump your car. If your battery's dead for good, they'll sell you a replacement on the spot, badged AAA. It's convenient. It's also, according to Consumer Reports' own data, a battery you're paying a premium for without getting premium performance. Out of 5 AAA battery models tested, 1 scored high, 3 came back merely satisfactory, and 1 was middling. That's a brand sitting at exactly the middle of the pack, while often being sold at a moment when you have zero leverage to shop around because your car is dead on the side of the road and a technician with a truck is standing right there. The top model, the AAA Premium BAT8435 AAA, does carry a perfect life score, a 36-month warranty, and 640 cold cranking amps. That's a respectable spec sheet, but you don't get to choose which AAA battery a roadside technician happens to have on the truck that day. You get what's on the truck. On Reddit, the debate isn't really about whether AAA batteries are good or bad. It's about whether the convenience is worth the markup. Several users point out you'll generally get better value buying the same tier of battery from an auto parts store ahead of time, before you're stranded, rather than from the technician who arrives after you're already stuck. That's the real insight here. AAA's battery isn't a bad product. It's a convenience tax. You're paying for the truck showing up, not for category-leading battery technology. Next, a brand whose biggest advantage isn't the battery chemistry at all. It's the return policy. The parts store brand built on location count, not lab scores. Napa is best known for the sheer number of parts stores carrying its name across the country, and that network is, by its own admission and by what Reddit owners repeat constantly, the actual selling point of its battery line. Consumer Reports tested 5 Napa models. 1 scored high, 4 came back satisfactory. No standout disasters, but also nothing that separates it from the pack on pure performance. The top model, the Napa Legend Premium AGM35, earned a perfect life score with a 36-month warranty and 640 cold cranking amps, numbers that sit right in line with everything else in the middle of this ranking. There's no dramatic flaw here. And there's no dramatic strength either. It's a battery that performs the way an average battery performs. What keeps coming up on Reddit isn't praise for how long the battery lasts. It's praise for how easy it is to get a replacement when it doesn't. Because Napa has so many locations, warranty service tends to be faster and less of a fight than with some other brands on this list, including the much bigger names above it. That's a real advantage, just not the one most people think they're buying when they grab a battery off the shelf. So if you're choosing Napa, you're not choosing top-tier performance. You're choosing convenience insurance, the assurance that when this merely average battery does eventually fail, you won't be fighting for a replacement the way Diehard owners describe. That's worth something. It's just not the same thing as buying the best battery in the store. Now we cross into the half of this list where the data actually starts to look genuinely good, starting with a global name that splits its identity right at the US border. The global brand that quietly earned its place. Exide claims the first spot in the better half of this ranking, and the data backs it up. Of 5 models Consumer Reports tested, 3 scored high and 1 scored satisfactory, dragged down from an even better position by just 1 low score. That's a meaningfully stronger track record than every brand we've covered so far. The standout model, the Exide Marathon Max AGM-MX35-EX, posted perfect scores for both life and reserve capacity, backed by a 48-month warranty, the longest we've seen yet on this list, and 650 cold cranking amps. A 4-year warranty on a battery that's also testing well in the lab is a genuinely strong combination, and it's worth noting explicitly, this is one of the better values on this entire ranking once you account for both performance and how long the company stands behind it. Here's something important to flag, because it'll save you confusion if you go looking yourself. Exide's business in the United States operates separately from Exide's operations in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. So if you're reading reviews and some of them mention dramatically different experiences, check where that reviewer is actually located, because they may not even be talking about the same company structure. Within the US specifically, the complaint volume on Reddit is notably thin for a brand this size, and what little discussion exists tends to point people toward other brands, rather than airing major complaints about Exide itself, which, in the world of car battery forums, is itself a quiet vote of confidence. Next, a brand with over 500 million batteries sold and a name that mechanics actually default to. The battery mechanics default to when they don't want to think about it. Interstate Batteries has been building these since 1952 out of Dallas, Texas, and by 2021 had sold its 500 millionth unit. That kind of volume usually means a brand has either gotten very good at consistency or very good at hiding inconsistency. Based on Consumer Reports numbers, it's the former. Out of the second largest test sample on this entire list, Interstate posted 5 high scores and 7 satisfactory scores, with only 2 middling and 1 low score pulling down an otherwise strong average. The top model, the Interstate MTX47H5AGM, placed third in its entire category with perfect scores for life and reserve capacity, a 36-month warranty, and 650 cold cranking amps. Solid numbers, consistent with everything else in Interstate's lineup, which is really the point. This isn't a brand with one hero product propping up 6 mediocre ones, the way Diehard and Duralast are structured. This is a brand performing close to this level across the board. Reddit reflects a similar consistency. Opinions vary. Some users report bad luck with specific units, which happens with any manufacturing line at scale. But the dominant piece of advice that shows up over and over is simple. Buy your Interstate battery through Costco specifically, because Costco's replacement policy is widely considered the easiest, most hassle-free warranty process available anywhere in this market. So with Interstate, you're not just buying a consistently solid battery, you're potentially buying the easiest possible path to a free replacement if something does go wrong. That combination, decent lab data plus an easy warranty path, is genuinely hard to beat. We're now entering the top 3, and the gap in quality from here to the bottom of this list is significant. The battery built for people who punish their electrical system. Optima has been building batteries since 1972 out of Wisconsin, and its spiral cell construction, the thing that gives it that distinctive cylindrical look instead of flat plates, isn't just a design gimmick. It's engineered specifically for vibration resistance and deep electrical demand, which is why it's become the go-to choice for vehicles running heavy-duty stereo systems or off-road builds that beat a battery up far more than a daily commute does. Of 5 models tested by Consumer Reports, 3 scored high and 2 scored satisfactory, with 0 low scores anywhere in the lineup. No disasters. No weak link. The flagship model, the Optima H6, carries the highest claimed cold cranking amp rating of any battery in this entire ranking at 800 amps, alongside perfect scores for both life and cold weather performance and a 36-month warranty. That CCA number matters specifically if you live somewhere that gets genuinely cold, because cold cranking amps measure exactly the scenario where most battery failures actually happen, a freezing morning asking a sluggish battery for more current than it can comfortably deliver. On Reddit, one recurring story stands out: an Optima owner reporting their battery lasted nearly a decade, which is roughly double what Consumer Reports' own lifespan data says is typical even in a mild climate. That's not the average outcome, but it's also not a fluke being reported in isolation. The flip side, and it's worth being honest about this, some users do report that Optima's build quality has drifted slightly in recent years compared to its reputation from a decade ago. Even accounting for that, Optima sits comfortably in the top 3 on lab data alone, and it's the clear pick if your vehicle's electrical demands are heavier than a typical commuter car. Now to the runner-up, a name you know from flashlights and remote controls, doing something most people don't expect. The flashlight company that quietly builds a top-tier car battery. Duracell has been in the battery business since the early 1920s, but most people only associate that name with AA batteries in a TV remote, not with what's keeping a 3,000-pound vehicle starting every morning. The data says they should. Consumer Reports tested 6 Duracell car battery models. 5 scored high, 1 scored satisfactory, 0 middling, 0 low. That is the cleanest, most consistent score distribution of any brand on this entire ranking except for the one ahead of it. The top model, the Duracell Platinum AGM47H5, placed second in its category with perfect ratings across life, reserve capacity, and cold weather performance simultaneously, all three of Consumer Reports' major scoring categories maxed out at once. It carries a 36-month warranty and 600 cold cranking amps. Hitting a perfect score in all three categories at the same time is rare across this entire ranking. Most brands trade off strength in one area for weakness in another. Reddit sentiment is more mixed than the lab data would suggest, with some of the long-term owners praising years of reliable performance and others reporting batteries that didn't last as long as expected. That gap between lab consistency and real-world reports is worth sitting with for a second, because it's a reminder that even a near-perfect testing record doesn't eliminate manufacturing variance entirely. Still, on the actual numbers, on the metric that should matter most before you hand over your money, Duracell is sitting at number 2 out of 10 major American battery brands. There is exactly one brand that beat it. The battery sold at O'Reilly that beat every major name on this list. Superstart is the #1 battery on this entire ranking, and if you've never heard of it, that's because it's sold almost exclusively through O'Reilly Auto Parts, rather than carrying the marketing budget of a Everstart or a Diehard. Consumer Reports tested 9 Superstart models, the largest sample size of any brand that still managed to avoid a single low score. 7 scored high, 2 scored satisfactory, nothing below that. The flagship, the Superstart Platinum AGM65 PLT, sits at the top of its entire category with perfect scores across life, reserve capacity, and cold weather performance. The same full sweep Duracell achieved, but backed by a higher claimed cold cranking amp rating at 750 amps and a 36-month warranty to match. Here's the part that should change how you shop. Superstart isn't a battery most people are actively choosing. It's a battery sitting on a shelf at O'Reilly that most people walk past on their way to a name they recognize from advertising. The actual data, the testing Consumer Reports ran across all 10 of these brands, says the opposite of what most buyers assume. The biggest names are clustered at the bottom of this list. The best performing battery in America right now is one most people have never specifically asked for by name. Reddit reflects exactly that imbalance. Most owners genuinely love these batteries, citing strong reliability with only scattered reports of bad luck, the kind that shows up with any product at scale. 9 models tested, 0 disasters, the highest top-end specs, and a real warranty to back it. That's not a marketing claim. That's where the actual lab numbers land. Here's what 10 brands and Consumer Reports' own scoring data actually prove. The battery with the biggest logo and the most shelf space is not the battery most likely to get you through 5 summers without leaving you stranded. Everstart and Diehard, 2 of the most recognized names in this entire category, sit at the bottom of this exact ranking, while Superstart, a brand most drivers have never specifically asked for, sits at the top with 0 low scores across 9 separate models tested. If your battery is currently a Everstart or a Diehard outside its warranty window, that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to start checking your voltage now instead of waiting for a dead battery to make the decision for you, especially heading into a hot summer, since heat kills batteries faster than cold ever does. So tell me what's actually under your hood right now. Has your battery surprised you, good or bad? Drop the brand and how many years you got out of it in the comments. I read every one. Next, we're looking at the warning signs your alternator is dying months before it actually leaves you stranded, and most drivers miss every single one of them.